Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Addiction, Alcoholism, and the Three Principles. Here again with Harry Durbitsky. And today we have Amanda Jones. I'm pretty excited about this. I got to meet Amanda back this spring in Michigan for Amy Johnson's Little School of Big Change live event, which was an awesome weekend. And I got to know Amanda that weekend, just loved everything she had to say, and she's got a great book. I'll let her talk about the book, but I was just excited when we started this new season. I told Harry, I was like, we're going to get Amanda on because I know she's got something great to share. So Harry wanted to say something, then we'll get around to Amanda.
Yeah, it's important in my mind to hear wisdom from fresh new faces, and people who are sharing often in the underground do not get the exposure that they deserve. And what it does is, in our show, is it offers us different ways of looking at addiction, or looking at the three principles in regard to that. And I found that there's so many different ways to look at this subject. And Amanda has not only been working with a very successful Amy Johnson, she's also seen something for herself, and she's sharing herself. So it's often the top person gets all the credit, and the people underneath are the one doing often a lot of the grunt work, or what we call the real work. And so I'm very interested to hear Amanda with her big, beautiful smile. And please, Amanda, introduce yourself and show the cover of your book. I thought it looked very, very beautiful.
Okay, thank you. I have to say I'm so excited to be here. It's a huge opportunity because I've watched almost all of your guys' shows. I think it's an incredible resource for people to have, that it's free. And so the book is called Uncovery, and it is, the subtitle is A New Understanding Behind Radical Freedom from Eating Disorders and Depression. But it is not a pigeonhole for just food and body image. Across the board, what I share in the book is applicable to everything and anything that anybody is up against, which we all know is only one thing, is a misunderstanding of our experience innocently. So a quick history of my background. I had battled anorexia, bulimia, and all of the implications of those eating disorders for over 23 years. And I went to countless therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, and then my own self-help journey through a million different books and strategies and techniques. And it was really discouraging because I would be okay for a while, but there was always over my shoulder that shoe hanging by a thread, that one moment could drop and everything would go to hell. So I came across Amy in about 2011, and she hadn't really started formally speaking about the principles in particular, but what I heard her pointing to really resonated, and I didn't know what that was, but for something kept bringing me back. And so I talk about that in the book, that I started to investigate what are these principles, what is going on here, and is this just another cult of spirituality that I've already tried and didn't work? So I was skeptical at first because I've tried everything. So I kept at it because something in the back of my mind just kept pulling me towards this. Something resonated as really underneath the surface true. So as I continued to learn and be open, I started to have insight about what I thought was my problem, which was an eating disorder. Guess what? That wasn't it at all. one of my big insights was that the habit I had developed innocently was the very top tip of the iceberg of a misunderstanding of feeling bad. I employed a manager. I hired a manager to manage my feelings. And he went straight, for whatever reason, straight to food and body, and sometimes drugs, but my thing was food and managing my body. I was a dancer for 25 years professionally, so I was very focused on what my body looked like. So I hired a manager, and he started to manage my food, and this is in my head, right? Not actually a manager, but so that became the problem. Not feeling bad, but now I had to manage this habit I had of being consumed with thoughts about food and body image and weight, and it's all consuming. If anybody here can relate to that. So that was the tip of the iceberg. What I didn't realize was it started layers and layers before, when I innocently wanted to not feel bad anymore. Not knowing that feeling bad was normal, that I would never stay in one feeling forever, even if I tried. And then what started to happen was the habit began to produce the anxiety I was trying to avoid by doing the habit. So now what do I do? Right now it's growing into a bigger monster that is now producing what I'm trying to get away from. So it really helped me to see that this idea I had of myself was a thought created belief that was changing moment to moment, not just my regular flow of thoughts, but also the thought of me, the belief that I was a fixed person who needed to be protected from certain feelings. I had no idea. Nobody told me this. But now it makes so much sense, because one thought of Amanda needing to be protected from feelings, well, I don't control thought and feelings. So one thought and feeling can come up and shatter the whole house of cards. And now I'm back to square one, trying to figure out what's wrong. How can I fix this? What's wrong with me? You know, all of that noise going on. I was terrified of letting go of strategies and techniques. In the book, I talk about, one of my therapists had me write down 100 things to do instead of following an urge to do a behavior. So I had bubble baths, I had call a friend, I had take a walk. And those are nice things to do, except when you want to do your behavior, you want to do your habit. I don't want to take a bubble bath. I want to go eat and purge, or I want to go exercise and restrict. I don't want to take a bubble bath. So, you know, it's funny, because sometimes it worked, those strategies, and then sometimes it didn't. But I was still afraid to let go of them, even though they didn't work all the time, because I was afraid I would fall into this oblivion of self-destruction. And this is before I realized that the techniques and strategies implied that I was expecting the behavior to come back. So if I had a technique and a strategy and a list of things to do, in the back of, you know, unconsciously, that's implying that I'm expecting this shit to come back. And it did, because I was just playing around on the surface and not understanding what was actually going on in my experience, and that there's nothing to fix in place. I love that word, fix. We try to fix our feelings. And either you try to fix it as in make it work right, or fix it in place so that it's stable and not changing. So that I love, because we do both. We try to fix a bad feeling into a good feeling, or we try to fix a good feeling in place so it doesn't change and we're there all the time. So this whole idea of trying to fix an ever-changing movement of energy, including the thought of Amanda, of me, of I, is a futile attempt. And that is the suffering that I felt. Not the food, not my weight, not the body. That attempt at fixing an energy in place was what caused suffering. And it's supposed to feel like that. It's feedback telling me, this, what are you doing? This isn't how it works. So slowly I began to interpret the feedback I was getting as it was supposed to be interpreted, meaning anxiety and frustration and fear were telling me what I was trying to do to futilely fix in place, and that it doesn't work that way. It's supposed to not feel good when we put an idea of who we are into an idea of who we're not. Does that make sense?
It does. It reminds me of Amanda in the early days talking with Sid. We would have experiences, and he would say, well, did you change or did anything? And he said, no, that was the confusing part. It was like a strategy that you're talking about. And he says, well, that wasn't an insight. He said, if it was an insight, you change. And that was very difficult to understand at the beginning. And you kind of remind me of what it was like as people are beginning their journey, that it's very easy to misunderstand what you are actually experiencing, because even the idea of a good feeling and a bad feeling is not so clear in you know, as you become more deepen in your understanding. So that does make a tremendous amount of sense of people's strategies make people misunderstand what they are actually looking at.
That's right. And, you know, the mind really loves to label feelings as good or bad. I mean, the mind, the brain divides experience up into separateness, into I'm feeling anxious now and that's a bad thing. I'm feeling content now and that's a good thing. And so in the beginning, I started to really felt like I was in a ping pong session of very choppy experiences, until I really kind of smoothed everything out and zoomed out to see that it's one flow of experience of just life moving through me. And the brain comes in and says, this one is like this one is called that, this one you don't like, this. It's both. It's all allowed. But now I know what that is. Now I know that activity. It's familiar now. It's an activity of the mind to resist or want more of something. And to fuel the it wants more activity. So it's going to either want to gather more strategies to keep it busy, to think it's getting somewhere, or resist something that has caused pain in the past, because now it's referring into the past to try to protect me. Poor thing, it doesn't know, it doesn't need to do that. It's funny, I'll share an insight I had just last week. I was driving and feeling uneasy for some reason, I don't know, and I saw my mind go through its file of facts, like a file of facts of potential causes. And it went food, husband, work, the past, my schedule, clients, the future. It went through all of these things, and I was just like, wow, it's trying to pinpoint something so that it can fix it, come to a solution, thinking that it's protecting me, that me knowing what caused it would be a good thing. Right. So it it was very funny to, because I really saw it. I saw it happening, this file of facts going through of all its causes of feelings that it doesn't know is made of itself. Right. It's that the brain, the mind was looking for things that it doesn't see as thought. Doesn't see that that's the same stuff of itself. It's separate. It's a cause of a feeling. It was hysterical. I don't know if that made any sense, but
Well, it's funny how it can take the past and tend to just project that into the future too.
yes.
Where when you're feeling bad, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to feel bad forever. You know, this is
Yeah.
always going to be here. I'm always going to feel terrible, even though it's never lasted forever in the past. It's always, just moved along. But we also do the same thing when we're feeling good, because
Yes.
we almost have that thing saying, well, yeah, but in the past, the good never lasted. It's like the
Yeah.
opposite thing. We think that the bad's going to last forever and the good's never going to last very long. So we're always projecting into the future and creating this anxiety about how we're feeling, and we're not present.
So what does that show us about that activity? It shows me that the mind can't stand being in the present moment because there's nothing going on. It doesn't have
Sure.
anything to say about it. There's lots to say about the past and the future. So let's look at that, Amanda. But right now, energy, life moving through me, not much to say about it. But that file of facts thinks it's helping out. It's like, I heard this great analogy. It's like our brain and little mind is like the 3-year-old who wants to come in and help you cook or make cookies. They really want to help, but all they do is make a big mess, right? They're not really helping, but they really want to help because they know how to do it, and they, So that's kind of what I saw, and I think it's really the beautiful part that I saw was that file of facts, the mind didn't understand that was made of itself. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying when I describe it that way?
Will you elaborate a little bit? Because
Yeah. Okay. So
that's a metaphorical expression rather than a
right.
physical.
So the thought, that the concepts it was circling through to pinpoint down what was causing me to feel something were thought created. They weren't real things. They were coming from the same soup as the mind that was looking through the file of facts. Like if you have a big pot of soup, it was the soup water looking at the carrots and the meat and trying to pinpoint which one was causing the soup.
Some this is what came to me. In the early days, we would jump a level of consciousness because we were exposed to sit, of course, and sometimes we were lucky enough to hear something, not always. And we go back to our world. And for the first half day, it was like we were in the past, like everything was clunky. And then it would through, and then everything went super smooth. Sort of like sometimes when you go on vacation, the first little bit is jumpy, and then the holiday is on. And what you're talking about almost sounds again like a misunderstanding we have about what's happening in the moment. We are so busy analyzing whether we feel good or don't feel good, and this is uncomfortable or that's uncomfortable. We don't see that the long-term flow of it is
right.
Because most of the change that I've experienced has always been a bewilderment of, oh, it happened, rather than I did something specific to make it happen, which sounds more like a strategy approach to it. And it's when we trust that, the other part becomes quite fascinating because it's just, as you mentioned, part of the process.
Right. And it's funny that I find it funny now. I didn't used to, but the me who takes credit for making a change doesn't exist. It wasn't me. I can't do that. I can't, you know, we aren't aware, I'm not at least aware of the creation of a thought, but I'm aware of it already coming into my awareness, and then the feelings that it carries or not. But I'm not, the idea of me can't create another idea. It's not a creator of all of this stuff that's happening, but it takes credit for it. Oh, look what I did. I managed to get this right. I made this change in this. It's so innocent though, but you know, that's going way deeper than stopping at a place of my experience is flowing and flowing, but it's me that's noticing that. You know, it's kind of a mind. It's hard. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to put words to it, but I always find it funny when the idea of me comes into being and then is taking credit for all of this stuff happening, all of this, either I caused that or I avoided that, or it's really, it's so much bigger than that. It's so much wider and more beautiful and profound than that.
That's for sure. I think you highlight perhaps one of the key questions that people have in addiction is, there's the little me, and then there's this beautiful feeling you were describing, and how do they work together? And when people do see that, they really do see it's an inside out experience. And go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, well, I had, you know, another insight that I'll share, if it's helpful, is that in a moment of insecurity, I found my self attempting to make that insecurity secure. And then I realized the nature of this separate little self is insecurity. You can't make it secure. And all of a sudden I felt better. I was like, oh, I can't do that. It doesn't need to. And it really dissipated, because trying to change the nature of an activity of your mind doesn't work. You don't need to do that. I feel insecure. Okay, here's that natural activity of insecurity starting to rev up. You can't make it secure. You don't need to. And that knowing does the work for you. You're done. You're done. It's fine. That was huge. That was huge to see, because it's really common for us to want to make insecurity not be there or secure. Obviously, you know, it's totally innocent, but it can't be done, because that's the nature of that separate insecure self that always needs something or doesn't want something that's happening now. It's fine. That's its activity. It's fine.
Yeah, that's, I think, a misunderstanding for a lot of newer people getting into the three principles. I think they look at it as somehow understanding the three principles will take away all of the not so comfortable experiences in life.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. You still have the same experiences. I mean, I am generally much happier than I used to be. I will say that. Yeah. But things still come up and life still happens, and you still have those feelings you really don't care to have, but they don't feel so personal.
Right. When you change your orientation from where you are coming into life, from the impersonal, then it doesn't matter when you have a bad day or a good day. If your orientation is coming from this self that's insecure and needs to be protected, it's going to be hard. You're going to have a hard day. It's just a tiny shift, little shift of orientation of where are you coming from. And the principles are such a beautiful point of entry into that exploration. Because it isn't about never having a feeling again. That's completely missing the mark. The freedom comes from having any experience, having all of it.
And knowing where it really comes from.
Yes. Freedom is not never being afraid again, because that's not possible. Freedom is being fully in life from the orientation of the true nature of who we really are, which is awareness of all of it, awareness of the good and awareness of the bad. When it starts to get personal, then it gets hard. And we go in and out all day of the personal and impersonal, but we get beautiful feedback letting us know where we're oriented. If it's about me, oh my God, look out, I got a lot of work to do and this is a big deal. But it feels, that comes with a bad feeling. And so I'm like, oh, look, I know what's going on. So it's just a gentle shift in orientation. Like in the school, in Little School of Big Change, there's new people coming in all the time, and they're focused innocently on the behavior, on their habit. What do I eat? How do I stop smoking? How do I stop drinking? I drank this much, I ate this much, and I feel, and Amy and I just gently take them by the shoulder and let's look over here. And they go, "Arr!" And we go, let's look over here. It's so obvious, it's so innocent to want to stare at what's in your face, which is the habit or the addiction, because it's the visible layer of the manifestation of your invisible thinking that hasn't bubbled up yet for you. But just gently reorienting back to what's upstream, what's way before all of that manifests into a behavior or anything like that. And it's such a relief. But in the beginning, it's very natural and normal to want to know how to fix this. How do I stop this habit or this addiction? But it's the cart before the horse thing. It's after the fact. It's not where the juice is. So it's just a little reorientation.
One thing it's helped me do is not take that new piece of trash that I don't want and put it on the same pile of trash that I've dragged behind me for all the years. So now I'm just dealing with that one little feeling, that one feeling that came up, rather than adding on top of it and saying, well, last time I felt this way, whatever, and adding that whole pile of crap on top of that one feeling.
Right.
And now It's not just this one little feeling that'll pass in 5 minutes. Now it's this whole pile of feelings that were similar to it, and they're going to hang around all day, and I'm going to have this dark cloud over my head, and it's going to rain on me, and I'm going to get struck by lightning.
Right. That points back to the mind not being comfortable or even aware of the present moment. If your present experience is one of unease or uncomfortable feeling, it doesn't know what to do with that because it's right now. So it's going to go back into the past in the trash pile behind you and say, let's look at this one. Look at this piece. Look at, what does this mean? When all of that activity is happening, it's fine. It's still part of your experience. But if you zoom out and come back to right now, I am actually fine. I have a feeling of energy that might be in the form of unease coming up or anxiety coming up or an urge coming up. Okay. Where am I oriented? Is it something I need to protect myself from or get more of, or what? I mean, asking those curious questions is, and not having to answer them, right? It really opens you up to the inquiry of what's really going on here. I'm not interested in what it appears to be. I'm interested in what's behind all the appearances. That's where the meat is, in my experience.
That's clever. I like where you started. The person is fixated on the problem, then you say, no, it's over here. And then they go back here, and then you say, no, it's over here. Basically, all you're saying is when you see it, you just do it yourself.
Well,
And
yeah, you stop, it stops going like this so fast, and it kind of slows down until it doesn't occur to you to look in that direction anymore. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't occur to you. But in the beginning, it's very normal to only see what's visible, what's in your face. And the beauty of this understanding is that as your grounding deepens, you start to vacillate slower. And you just lean more towards what gives the most juice, naturally. Where to look it just occurs to you that makes sense better. And then your experience gets more fluid and not so chopped up and jilted and ooh, I'm feeling this, then I'm feeling this, then I feel it, it kind of smooths it out. But yeah, it's a gentle take him by the shoulders and go just a little bit. Let's look over here. But in the beginning, it's totally normal to keep going back to the behavior. Yeah, but I still do this habit. Or yeah, okay, let's look over here. It's fine.
And the more relaxed you are with that, looking over there,
Yeah.
the more you look over there, because
exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's all a mental habit. We trained
right.
ourselves over the years to look at certain things. And it's just a matter of it's a gentle retraining. It's creating that new habit of looking in this other direction rather than looking back and trying to find, I got this puzzle piece here and this other one kind of looks like it. So let me go ahead and put those together and make it a bigger problem.
And also, just to add on to that, is you've been looking at that same place forever, and how's that working out?
Right.
Like, what new are you seeing? If you're seeing something new, awesome, but that just means that you kind of put one eyeball over here. You've got one eyeball here and one eyeball there. And
it's interesting, Greg, you use the word retraining. It appears to be retraining, but it actually is more like, since this is the only way to be, it's more like re-looking at something that is obviously there. And
it's more like untraining. It's getting rid of that habit that's there.
Actually, I think that's correct. It's an untraining, which
because the natural way is to look in that direction that, like you're talking about, Amanda, where you have to like gently take them by the shoulders and point them that way. That's actually the natural direction to look.
Yes.
But we've spent so much time looking in this other direction, it just became a habitual thing. We just naturally looked in that direction.
Yes, we are bombarded in our conditioning to look at what is visible. I mean, duh. It's there, you can see it. Look, this is a problem. So it is habitual, but it's not it's not the true origin of where we're meant to look. And that's why so many people do come to look over here, period, only. And if they find themselves staring back at the behavior as a problem, that will bring them feedback that they're oriented in a way that isn't going to help at all, and just cause more anxiety until they wake up to the feedback they're getting, and then they go, oh, okay, I'm going to look over here. I forgot. Yeah.
Right.
Iona, how do you see all of this?
I really love what you're saying, Amanda. Like, I think it's very, very practical, the way you're talking about it. You've obviously got a lot of experience talking to people with actual problems, and also, insight, from your own problems. Because quite a lot of the time, like, I'll listen to someone and I'll just be like, are they just taking a jab in the dark, or are they just talking some ethereal stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is very, very practical, very practical. I'm absolutely loving it. Like,
Good.
just listening to it. Honestly, I'm just like, whoa, like my mind is just like really like blown. At the same time, I feel more peaceful. Because yeah, I won't go into detail, but I had a bit of a stormy day with relation to habit and eating
Huh?
disorder thing. And I'm just like, whoa, this is just you're just here
Yeah.
talking about what you're talking about. Like, honestly, I'm so grateful, and I just think it's amazing. Like, just by chance, this has all happened. I think it's amazing.
Oh, wow.
So thanks.
But
Yeah.
that touches my heart. Yes, it's funny that you say that I'm talking practical, because I usually don't get that. I'm usually people. I usually need to like come down out of the ether. That's what I'm saying. So I'm so glad. But yeah, I've been there, and I know, and I also seen through things that um, have helped me, but also I've also seen that we're all alike in our habits and addictions. It doesn't, they might come in different forms, but there's a common denominator of just a simple misunderstanding, and looking at the behavior and worrying about the behavior doesn't feel good, does it? No. And that
Mhm.
is showing you that it's the wrong place to look. You don't have to look. It's not showing you that you did something bad and now you have a bad feeling.
Mhm.
It's a misinterpretation of the feedback you're getting of where your thoughts are going and trying to take you with them. So it's such a relief to know that when I feel bad about a certain behavior that has happened, and I think about that behavior and try to fix it and feel better about it, it's not supposed to feel good, because it's the wrong direction. And then, we say, well, I don't want to be in denial. I need to think about this. No, you don't. Denial is another concept from the mind trying to help bake those cookies and put flour all over the kitchen, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes, Iona, we get caught up in a bigger feeling where things are moving at a slower pace, where we don't just see it. And then the only thing I can suggest in that is do what Amanda is saying, but sit in it in a very as peaceful a way as possible, because things are moving. In the Indian world, there's like a medicine wheel spinning around in you, and it has different quadrants. Sometimes you get stuck in a quadrant, and it takes a little while to see that it's before it moves on. And so sometimes we have a feeling of discomfort, but we're not able to see clearly what direction. In other words, we don't feel secure with ourselves at that moment. And then over time, it releases. And
I love that.
that's beautiful, because that,
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of an image I often have of an Etch-a-Sketch. The Etch-a-Sketch thing toy. I used to think that I was the squiggles and lines and monsters and everything that appeared and disappeared on that Etch-a-Sketch screen. And then I saw, wait, I'm the screen. And things are appearing and disappearing and getting shaken up. And then it's fine. It's all allowed. But when you forget you're the screen of the Etch-a-Sketch, whatever's being drawn on there is a scary monster, and it's scary. But you will eventually come back to that knowing of you're actually the screen, because everything that is appearing and disappearing cannot be you. It's got to be created and dissolved in awareness, and that's the screen. That's you. I love the Etch-a-Sketch. I need to get one. as a prop.
It's really cool. It is a true, that's actually what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah.
They need to make really giant ones, like 3 feet across, with
Yeah.
really big knobs on them. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but the knobs are working by themselves, right? The knobs aren't being controlled by us. They're just that energy of formless into form, turning left or right, making a squiggle or a line. Well, I guess it's all lines, isn't it? No, it's, you can squiggle. It's been a while. So are there any questions or any, I see Bob and Marty. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
I fell asleep. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
This is
You
the
put
pig.
me in this wonderful place of sharing, and
it's
I
a
just
compliment. I'm
can't
glad.
live it.
I'm glad you fell asleep. That's awesome.
I was hearing you.
I know.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, I've got to say, let me pull this down a second here. Uh, your books are spectacular. The Uncovery book, I have two friends now that I've loaned them to, and they've both read them twice. And one of the ladies doesn't have a computer. I tried to have her get on today, but she doesn't have a computer or any way to get on, so she'll see the recording. But she was just going on, and she said she's read several books on recovery, and in your book, she said it just made more sense to her than any of the others. And I think there's a section about page 100 to 104 in your book, which I think is probably one of the clearest explanations of the three principles that we've heard. And so just thank you very much, and thank you for all you're doing. It's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you for sharing that with me. It means so much to hear feedback about this, because that's why the book wrote itself. For that exact reason, what you just described. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love hearing that so much.
It's the truth.
Maybe, Amanda, you could tell us about an interesting client that you experienced, something that would be helpful for us to listen to.
Well, let's see. Actually, I had a client this morning that has blown me away. She has been anorexic for most of her life. Probably, she's 27, I think. It started at age 8. She's been in treatment, regular, traditional treatment for inpatient with a feeding tube and everything for 3 times. And she came to me about 7 months ago, and we started working. And I mean, she had no idea about this understanding or anything. And it's been very interesting to watch the old paradigm of the way eating disorders have been treated and addiction has been treated, to slowly fall away out of her orbit. She really thought that if it's to be, it's up to me, and I've got to use my willpower, and I've got to do this, and I feel like I'm not doing anything. You're telling me not to do anything. I need to do something, And I got a message yesterday saying, I don't know what's happened, but I ate everything I was supposed to, and I didn't go to the gym. And I haven't done that in 6 months, and I don't feel any anxiety. And this is a client that I've really worried about, because I thought, I knew she was going to get it at some point. I didn't know when, but I just she's so close. And I think something broke through. And, you know, one of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago that I think spurred this kind of jump in her evolution of recovery, Uncovery, was that I asked her, when you try to manage your anxiety by restricting or going to the gym, is that causing anxiety or is that relieving anxiety? Oh no, it's causing more anxiety. So that was one thing she saw. The second thing she saw was when I asked her, what are you getting out of this? What are you getting out of restricting and staying in anxiety? And she just stopped cold. It just stopped her in her tracks. She'd never considered that question before. What am I getting out of this? And just keeping that open, I think, opened up a pinhole through this week for her to, when she came up against some anxiety that she would really resist and close up against, that insight came through because she heard something different finally. So that's one. I don't work with a lot of most of my clients, we don't talk about their eating disorder or their anxiety or anything specific, because that's, again, looking after the fact. That's looking at the manifestation of their misunderstanding. But for this specific girl, she needed to gain weight. She needed to. It was dangerous. So that was huge. And I just talked to her this morning, and she's like, I don't know what's happening. I don't feel like myself. I don't know how to feel about this. This is weird. And we just talked about this, you know, your house of cards that's been built in the air is getting blown away. So you're going to feel a little wobbly until you get that ground underneath you. You're hovering a little bit above the ground right now, and it's fine. It's okay. You can be scared, but you can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unring this bell. So don't worry about going backwards or losing momentum. All of that thinking is born out of the same anxiety that you're trying to avoid by doing the behaviors. So, and she was like, oh, okay. So that's one example.
That's beautiful. You know, you brought up a point, Amanda, that I think a lot of people are confused about when they're teaching the principles and, let's say, addiction or eating disorders. You said normally we talk about the way the mind works or something of that nature, and we stick to that because that's where the healing power is. But in this case, you talked also about the specifics of the uncomfortableness the person was feeling when they were going to the gym or whatever it was, and that brings a really important point that there isn't a rule that you should talk about this and not that.
Yeah.
And for me, there was always a separation between those two worlds, and it created a hell of a lousy counselor.
Yes.
That's the only thing I can describe it as, you know. And when those two worlds became one, it didn't matter where we were because we were expressing it from the mind and the feeling of the client rather than where the healing lies type of thing. And
right.
Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, you know, when I think I know what they need to hear, I'm in trouble because I don't know. I'm walking with them down a path. We're having an exploration, a conversation. Every once in a while, I'm going to turn to them and because I'll hear something that is curious and we'll have a conversation about it. But I don't know what they need to hear. I don't know. I'm just walking alongside them. And so we didn't actually, I used to think that I wasn't supposed to talk about the behavior at all. But I found, like you just said, that was really limiting. That's cutting off one arm of experience, and why do that? So it's very fluid and free. It's more of an art to listen, ask questions, get curious, and because they know I don't know anything more than they do. So it's pointing them to that fact that I'm not here to fix them. Everything they have is in their awareness right now already. So we're just walking together and exploring, and there's a real freedom in that, and less pressure to make something happen or make a solution appear, and so for her, we did talk about, what are you getting out of this behavior, a little bit. And then we talked about the habits are causing the anxiety she's trying to avoid. But that, it came to her during the week. It showed up in the behavior. I didn't say, now when you're walking to the refrigerator, I need you to remember these two things. It came to her, it came through her, because she had an insight about it, and it just happened to have to do with the behavior. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. It's leaving it really open and just curiosity all across the board.
So it shows, it is a organic or spiritual experience. My word is spiritual, but experience rather than a strategy.
Yeah, because we all know how those work. Not well. Now, I don't want to poo-poo techniques and strategies, because the good news is that once you know what is behind all appearances and all strategies and techniques, that formless flow of whatever you want to call it, then you can have fun in techniques and strategies. You can go to the gym, you can eat what you want, you can play in the world, because you're grounded in the truth of who you are, that you don't need anything to be okay, because there isn't even a you that needs to be okay. That's an idea as well. So have fun, go out into the world and do things. It's beautiful. And now you do it with nothing on it, because you don't need it to make you feel better or to avoid feeling bad. It's huge.
Yeah, easy, just have fun.
That's right. Be yourself. Have fun.
It sounds a little complicated. Let me think.
Don't complicate it, Harry.
Is there a technique to this being yourself and having fun that we can do?
Yeah.
How many hours of yoga do I have to do to get there?
Oh my gosh. The new students we have in the school are so wonderful, and they're so innocently wanting instruction and techniques, because that's how we think change is supposed to happen. Don't know where we picked that idea up, that it actually works, but it's very scary to let go of all of that, because you really do feel like you're kind of hovering there with nothing to hold on to, not knowing that you don't need to plant your flag somewhere. That's what we're all trying to do anyway, is plant our flag somewhere so we're stable and secure and never feel bad. Well, no, you don't have to do that. I'm all fired up now about it, because I feel so strongly.
And that's not to say, if you really enjoy doing yoga and you're not doing
Oh my God, I
yoga
love it.
as a way of escaping or as a way of achieving something beyond where you are. If you really just enjoy doing it, do it.
And if you do it to escape feeling bad, who cares?
Yeah, do it anyway.
Who cares? You're not doing any of this. This is coming through your experience, and your feedback will tell you'll know the best thing I know to do right now is to feel better by doing XYZ. And that's the ultimate self-care. Instead of sitting here in this vibrating uncomfortableness, something's going to occur to you to do. Eventually, it won't be a destructive thing. But something is always occurring you to do to get back to home base, because that's who we are. And so whatever pool that is, it's gonna morph more towards something less destructive if that's what your thing is. But when I talk about this in the book, I would have relapses and not care, because I knew the change was happening under the surface, behind the scenes, behind the curtain. So what if I had an eating disorder behavior? I knew the change was happening way under the water before that, way beyond that. Where in the past I would be very upset, very scared, very down, but it would ruin my whole day. But I knew change was happening, and usually in this understanding, behaviors are the last thing to go. It's fine. But they do go, but not first, because that would be a strategy to get rid of a behavior. So if behaviors are still around, it's totally normal for that to be one of the last things to kind of fall away. And it will be so effortless, because it just won't make sense. It won't be a willpower thing or a white knuckling thing. It just won't make sense. It won't occur to you to really want to go there. Hi, Marty.
Hi. I always remind myself, how there's days where you're fighting yourself and you think, I got to do this, I have to do that. You're going through your routine and thinking about it, and sometimes struggling with it. If I stop and say, it's not about doing, it's about being. And if I am being my more authentic self, and I'm more in contact with the flow of life, I'm feeling, I will be prompted to do what is mine to do, instead of having this list of must-dos that, if you really look at it, half of it's habitual. Oh, I think I have to do it this way. Well, today, try doing it a different way. Do it by how you feel you want to do it, So I remind myself it's about being, not doing.
That's right. That's beautiful.
You
Is
don't
that,
know what's the
yeah,
difference.
it's like, is it a gut or a head thing?
Right.
And you can feel the difference.
Mhm.
And it's usually a quiet whisper nudge without words first. That's your gut.
Mhm.
But we're conditioned to override that, because that's frou-frou spiritual junk, and you got to use your head, all that bullshit. So how's that working out for everybody? It's just getting eyes for the truth of who you are, and it's nothing you think, literally, even who you think you are. All right, I'm going off road now. Harry, were you going to say something?
Well, I thought that one of the wisest things that's been said on our show is an echo. One of the is this: you were going through a relapse, but you or an experience of the habit, but you knew underneath that was just perfect.
Yes.
I thought that was so profound.
Yeah.
And really brings a clarity to something. Greg has reiterated that in using his own words, of course, but that was very, very powerful, because if we're going through something, and from the experience Amanda was expressing, the feeling Amanda was expressing, it's just a piece of cake, rather than a big deal.
That's
And
right.
isn't that the big problem with addiction? It's a big deal.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And a piece of cake sounds a lot tastier, especially,
That's right.
you know,
And, you know, if you're not, what if you weren't afraid of an episode of an addiction? How would that be different? What would be different? A lot. I asked
totally.
somebody in the school this week, what if you weren't afraid of a binge? What would be different? I don't think those questions are asked. We don't, it doesn't occur to us, because, you know, it's so, we don't want to do this anymore. But that we don't want to do this anymore is what we start to feel as pressure to make us want to do something to relieve it. So go back and not and inquire into, what if I wasn't afraid of anything, any behavior? And the irony is, that's when the pressure releases, and it doesn't occur to you that you need to relieve pressure by doing your thing, whatever that is.
It's just beautiful. Thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us
Yeah.
today. This has been awesome. Did you have something, Anna?
Yeah, I was just gonna say you're absolutely amazing. Like
Oh.
everything you've said, I've related to so much. It feels like you've tailored it just to me.
I did. We're actually the same person, you know. I'm talking to myself actually right now. All of you.
Oh.
Oh,
Whoa.
thank you so much, everybody who joined today. I was really excited to talk about this. I get really fired up because I tried everything, and I didn't know how it actually worked. So I want to share and support as many people as I can doing that.
Well,
So
you
thank you. Thank you, Greg and Harry, from the bottom of my heart. I love it. I
I
love
think
it.
Deanna might have something to say here.
I
Who?
just wanted to say, great. This is a good one, Amanda. You're one of my favorites.
Oh,
My favorite as well.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That means a lot. It's my pleasure. Reach out to me at any time if you guys want. I'm fascinated by the kitty in Greg's picture. What was I lost my train of thought. So if you want a copy of the book, you can contact me and I will send you one. Okay. And then you can maybe you can find me on Facebook as well. So
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank
you,
you.
Amanda. That was beautiful.
So
Very,
before we wrap up here, Amanda, what would you say if you had somebody in front of you right now who was really struggling, and they just needed that little bit of hope to kind of get through the day? What would you say to that person?
The easy questions, huh?
real easy. Yeah, piece of cake. Yeah.
It's hard to answer that because the connection I have when I'm in front of somebody would inform my response. But
Fair enough.
okay, is that okay?
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. It was just something I just kind of threw out there.
Yeah.
But
there's
there
a
is
lot
hope. Everybody out there, there is
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
And not only is there hope, but it's our birthright to be happy and healthy and
Yeah.
at ease in the world.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot I could say, but it would be informed by the connection I have with them in that moment. And the other thing would be that it's okay that you're struggling. What if it was okay? What if it wasn't a problem? Because the struggle itself is neutral until we resist against it and close up and contract. That's what feels like struggle.
Perfect.
So
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so very much.
thank
It
you,
was-
everybody.
I was looking forward to having you on. You did an amazing job today. So this is awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody so everybody can say, you know, thank you, goodbye, and whatnot. And everybody have a great day.
Thank you,
Love you,
Amanda.
Amanda.
Thank
Love
you.
This has been great.
you, everybody.